Always be. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's edition of KDHL's AM Minnesota program. I didn't grab my calendar. It's behind me here. But I will tell you that Todd Sesker, the superintendent of the Faribault Public Schools, is our guest today. We're going to talk facilities, right?
We are. Yes, thanks, Gordy, for having me on.
Well, thanks, Todd. I appreciate you coming by. Things are going well. You're getting all ready for graduation, I see.
Yeah, we're winding down. It's been another great year. We've got a great group of seniors. We're really looking forward to graduation.
How come it goes so fast for us as we get older?
I don't know. It seems like every year it goes fast. This is my 6th year here in Faribault, so it's gone by really quick.
And when you're a kid, you can't wait to get out.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah.
And then when you get older, you wish you were back.
That's right. You look back and you reflect and you figure out, where did all these years go? And this is no different.
And those truly are the best years of your life.
Yeah, they are. We've had a great year, and the kids have been great. Staff has worked well, and it's just been a strong school board, and we've just had a very good year at the school.
Meanwhile, you're going to look at making things stronger.
We are. We had a group of facility committee members from the community that got together and reviewed some of the needs of our district, and I'll fill you in on some of the criteria that we went through in order to get to the place where we are right now, and it's been a very positive experience for everyone.
So what were some of the criteria?
Yep, you bet. We talked, first of all, what are some of the, we tried to separate the needs from the wants, but prior to doing that, we wanted to get kind of a backbone of what our facility needs look like. And so our topics were safety and security. And for instance, I'm not going to read all of these because it's quite a list, but provide a safe and secure and healthy learning environment for all students and staff. Schools should have a single point of entry for visitors while being warm and welcoming. So for example, if you go to Lincoln Elementary School, we do have the vestibule, and the secretaries do a pretty good job of seeing who's in the vestibule, and if they have to get in, they buzz them in. But right when that person gets into the building, there's stairs that go right up. Yep. And we don't often see the people who go into our buildings, which is not a good thing, especially today. So we would like to do that with all the buildings to make them all safe and secure. So that was one criteria of we believe that's a definite need. Deferred maintenance, we have areas of our school that have some handicapped accessible issues. We need boilers at the high school, things like that we need to take care of for our school district to maintain their facilities. We have almost $250 million in assets. We want to make sure that we're taking care of them. In activities and athletics, we want to make sure that we offer places and practice areas and game areas that inspire pride in our students and parents, and also the community. We believe that working with the city towards our 2040 visioning statement it only helps our entire community by working together, and we think that we can help the city out by doing some of these things that help with them. Not only that, it selfishly, if we have it located at the high school, it helps our curriculum a tremendous amount. We can also host tournaments. We can host events through the community like car shows and flea markets and things like that. In fact, if we create this event center, we think that it's going to be a real asset to this community. District visioning and goals. We want to make sure that we are adhering to the goals of the school board. The number one goal they're not in any certain order, I guess, but the first goal of the school board was to create facilities that will create success for all students, and this is one way to do it. One example of that, third goal within the goals, was that we wanted to create some sort of a STEAM program, a language immersion program, and or year-round school. And one of the proposals in the facilities is to create a STEAM wing in our high school, which directly correlates to the vision and the goals of the school board. We want to make sure that we have education adequacy and capacity. We did a capacity analysis, and we are at maximum capacity with our schools, not necessarily because of the students, but because over the last 50 years we have added programs, and mainly mandated programs like special education. We have a newcomer center, which is good education for our kids, but we also have to offer EL services. So all these programs are necessary for students to be successful, and they're also mandated. We also we had a person visit our school board when we were going through the operating levy a few years ago, and she said she supports the operating levy, but she also wants us to look at our facilities, because one of the things that she sees is a lot of students in the hallway. We have a lot of our programs where we pull kids out in the hallway to give some extra help at our elementary schools, and the board looked at that as being something that we really didn't want. We wanted those, and we wanted to make sure that we have that flexibility.
All right, we'll talk more about that and more about these recommendations that have been made by this committee when AM Minnesota
Ready to hit the fields this spring. Whether it's in the shop or in the field, Harvey, Scott, and Seth are ready and able to get the job done. Backed up by some of the latest fabrication equipment, there are very few parts that can't be fabricated and installed on your equipment. Give a call to Metal Services at 507-583-2144 or stop in and see them. The repair shop is located 2 blocks east of the Dairy Queen. That's Metal Services in Blooming Prairie at 507-583-2144.
Hey, in Minnesota today, Todd Sesker, the superintendent of the Faribault Public Schools, is our guest. Tomorrow, Dr. Stromer will be with us from Summit Orthopedic. We always enjoy our visits with Dr. Stromer. Nort's scheduled to be with us from the Chamber on Wednesday. Thursday, Faribault Grows is having their plant sale this coming Saturday. We'll get details from Emily Nesfold and Pat Rice. Father Victor Valencia, scheduled to be our guest on Friday from the Church of St. Patrick, Shieldsville. They're doing a mission trip, and so we're going to talk about that on Friday's AM Minnesota show. It should be a lot of fun. So we've got a lot of great programs as always this week. So Todd, we had to do that opening market report, and you were telling us.
Yep, a lot of the criteria that the task force came up with before we decided to work on the needs assessment. A couple other things that we talked about. Our early childhood education is a huge piece of our school district's visioning, and there are a lot of deficiencies in McKinley that we need to fix. Our elementary program and kindergarten, our kindergarten was never built for all-day, everyday kindergarten. It was, and now it's mandated. So we have basically 2 or 3 classrooms short in every school because of that. Also, 2 of the kindergarten rooms in 2 of the schools are too small. They're not the standard 1,100 square feet. They're 900 square feet. So we're even not adhering to that. Even though that's not a mandate, they're kind of grandfathered in. It'd be nice to have that. In the middle school, our facts and science labs are all out of date. We need our office areas with our counselors and our social workers and our office staff. They're pretty small in the middle school, and we need to re-look at all of those. At the high school, one of the things that we'd love to do is we'd like to start the concept of academies. We'd love to have kids who are 8th graders coming into the high school sign up for a certain academy, so or a pathway, whatever you want to call it. And the STEAM wing would really allow an engineering pathway for us. We'd love to add back ag. We've talked about, we had 2 girls and 1 young man that came and presented to the board last week about bringing back FFA and the ag program. And that STEAM wing would be a perfect marriage for adding an ag course or curriculum back to that. So that's something that we've talked about. Our ALC down on the north end of town, our Alternative Learning Center, is an old building. In fact, to remodel that was about $6.5 million. To build it brand new is $8 million. So we've considered, do we build it or remodel it? So it's a long list. It's a few pages long. Anybody can certainly access it. We have it on the website if they want to see the criteria that defined what the needs were for the school district. So based on those needs, and we worked really, really hard on that for probably 3 of our 7 or 8 meetings that we had with this group. So that set up the now how do we find solutions in order to address these needs. So all the buildings had the safe and secure entrance. That was kind of a no-brainer. All of them had the deferred maintenance, which the deferred maintenance in our schools, because they're so old, actually amounted to almost $11 million. So that was a large dollar amount. Flexible learning spaces were another piece where we no longer want kids in the hallways. We want them to be working collaboratively with students and staff. So we're trying to figure out ways to get them out of the hallways, and creating these flexible learning spaces really does that. So some of the big items that we've came up with for solutions, rather than building 4 new classrooms in each elementary school to accommodate the shortage of classrooms, we thought 1 building, an early childhood center from 0 to kindergarten makes a lot more sense. If we decide not to renovate McKinley, which needs a lot of help, and build something brand new, it makes a lot more sense than trying to renovate something and then also add on to 2 buildings anyways that were built in the 1950s plus Roosevelt. So one of the big proposals that this committee is recommending to the board is to build a brand new early childhood and kindergarten center. And those are some pretty cool ideas that have come up with this group.
And that would be located where McKinley is now?
That's correct, right now. Unless if we can do some work with the city, maybe we put it into a development so that the city could grow too. Maybe put it into a development where the city's thinking about building, and maybe that would help too. But we'd like to make that kind of a cost neutral thing because we already have the land.
Right.
The other thing that came up was the ALC, the Alternative Learning Center. We have about 120 kids there. We'd like to expand it to 140. We think that we can. That also helps the district financially, but these kids who don't quite make it in the high school and they feel more comfortable in a learning environment that's away from the high school, it would cost us $6.5 million to renovate this place that's outdated, where we could build something new for $8 million. So again, the committee looked at that and said it makes more sense to build a new alternative learning center. So this plan includes a new early childhood kindergarten center and a new alternative learning center for kids. And that would be in the same location. We already have the land for that too.
Alternative learning couldn't go to that building you attached to the high school?
It could, and what we talked about was where do these kids thrive, and the students and the staff, when we surveyed them, were overwhelmingly in favor of being away from the high school, away from the other buildings because of the areas that they learn. They would rather be away from that rather than being part of those other communities.
So they want to be in their own school?
They want to be in their own school, yeah. It's part of the public school, but it makes sense when you look at alternative learning centers around the area, and that actually is the best solution. Plus our enrollment, we're expecting a little bit of an increase in that area, which helps generate dollars for the school, and having it out in that location seems to work out great.
Any idea where that would be?
Probably at the same site, because we have 5 acres there, and we own that land. It's out by the old district office, kind of where the bus garage is on that north end of town off of Highway 3. The other piece is the event center / field house. We haven't come up with a name. We thought the event center might be more appropriate because that's more community oriented. We had a couple good counselors working with us early on. We had John Rowan and Jana Viscomi were helping us out with the ad hoc facility group early, and we talked about this event center or field house as being a nice kind of diamond in the rough for this community. We've come up with a design for it, although all those specs won't come into play until we know how the voters feel about this. But it would be a 5-station field house, so there'd be 5 full-size courts. There'd be a walking track on the bottom, and there would be a walking track on the top level of this facility. And like I said, it'd be wide open to the public. So that piece is also part of it, and the committee went back and forth, and they think that that would be a huge asset for this community and the school district, and good for kids and good for community members, a good collaborative effort with South Central College, with the hospital, with BA. All those different entities can come in and utilize this resource with us. So we think that that's a huge asset. So those are the 3 big pieces that we think are pretty major. We have all the renovations, so just reviewing real quickly. This all consists of renovating all the elementary schools, which is necessary because these are 1950 buildings that are not conducive to how we're learning today. A middle school redesign, the cafeteria, if you've been in that middle school, all the way through the middle of the core of the building would be open. We'd open up all those walls. We'd have a lobby area. There'd be room for people to come in and out, and it wouldn't be so congested anymore. And it would really open the place up, in addition to, again, doing some flexible learning spaces. And again, the high school remodel of the STEAM wing, some remodel of all the performing arts, both performing arts centers would get some remodel. The one at the middle school would get new seats, sound, and light. The high school at the PAC would have new lighting, new sound, and there's a sound shell behind that we would replace. The band and the choir rooms would get some remodeling. So a lot of renovating in all those different areas. So all of those, plus a brand new early childhood center with kindergarten and a brand new ALC and a brand new event center / field house would be all part of this whole part. The dollar amount right now, as it sits, is about $86.7 million. We're trying to get that down to 85. It's a little sticker shock. We are able to roll in some outstanding debt, which will help ease that tax burden on that. But I'll just reverse the question. With all these different adds to the community, Gordy, what do you think the tax impact should be on a person who owns maybe a $200,000 house, which is a little bit above average for Faribault, but we're using that as kind of a guide. So what would you be willing to pay in order to have all these different things each month in addition to what you're paying already for a mortgage or rent or whatever you're paying for in order to have this? And I say that a little bit rhetorically because I've asked this to the finance committee, to the...
Well, you're going to get a number of people, I'm sure, that will say if they don't have kids,
why raise it at all?
Why do I need to pay extra?
Yeah, and all
you're going to get that.
You're going to get that. What we try to do is we try to minimize that with our taxes. The school taxes, really, there are ways that we can make some of those taxes go down. When we expand our tax capacity, those taxes go down. We don't get more money, it just reduces the taxes. If we get this ag credit through the Senate and the House and the governor's office, it's a 40% decrease on what's currently being bonded. That could also help out. And all of those are pieces that are not in there yet. So we are really looking at a minimal tax. Well, and I don't want to put that in there because that's all depends on your audience. We're trying to minimize the tax impact on this huge project as much as we possibly can.
Okay, so what is the $200,000 tax impact?
Right now it's a little less than $30 a month. Increase.
With this?
Yes. And
with everything that you included in there?
Everything I included in there for the 86 point, actually that's at 90 million, so it's actually gone down a little bit. We're trying to hit 85 million. We're at 86.7 million right now, but it should go down a little bit even beyond that.
So about $360 a year.
Yep. So it's pretty good for this investment, and you know, one of those things that really helps is that
not
we're able
quite
to
$1 a day.
That's correct. Yes. Yep. And we have some old debt that we're putting in there. We're not a lot because we don't have much debt, and we also have our tax base is getting better and better in our community. Our city has really done a nice job of doing that. There are some other things that are not included in that relief, and we still don't have the impact of Faribault Foods' expansion out there. That's not even part of this yet.
Oh, gee, that would be
that would
pretty
help.
Significant impact, I would think.
It would, and then and the ag credit's not part of this yet. Although that wouldn't be the $200,000 home. That would be the ag piece, the homestead and non-homestead ag part. But all those pieces are still coming in. The timing is really good. The board right now has been extremely supportive of moving forward with this. They know that our kids need a little bit better and a little bit more help with what they have educationally, and we think that some of these assets for the community will be only a positive piece for Faribault.
Well, when you started the conversation, Superintendent Todd Sesker is our guest today from the Faribault Public Schools. You said we separated the wants from the needs. Now, obviously, the event center is a want, not a need, right?
Well, it depends on how you look at it. If you look at our athletic, and they worked really hard on this, so I'll just go over the criteria. This is the criteria in the task force, and it's between 20 and 25 folks that met, good cross-section of the community. This is the criteria. Activities and athletic facilities that inspire pride in our students, parents, and community are essential. Co-curricular and community activities are an important part of a student's educational and social development at all ages. The district has a responsibility to promote teamwork and leadership. The district values family time, studying, and adequate sleep. Current space constraints don't allow practices to finish at a reasonable time. We support the need to incorporate more diverse activities for public schools, including DECA, robotics, clay target. Although we probably won't be shooting in this place, but it does support some of those pieces. More space will be needed in the future, not less, and so on and so on. So they came up with a lot of this criteria that would define, well, if we really need this, then how are we going to accommodate it? And so one of the solutions was to build this field house / event center.
And the city would kick in for this too?
No, the city would not. At this point, this is a school project right now. As one of my board members said, whether you're city or school, it's still going to be a tax impact. So whether or not the city provides a resolution to kick in $12 million for this project, it would still go on the taxpayers.
Right.
We would think that the school district has a little bit more leverage on the tax impact because we get some of that offset by state, and potentially with this ag credit and some of these other things coming down the pike, we can actually make sure the tax impact is less than what it would be for the city. I can't guarantee that, but that's what that's our thought process. We also know that the city is working hard to do some of their own projects, and why not have the school help out on some of those things that the city is asking us to help out with? And part of that 2040 visioning is this project right now.
So you're seeing the event center as a need, not a want,
Right now we're seeing it as a need, that's correct,
for the community.
for the community and for the school, according to the criteria that was set up by this committee. Now there are going to be different perspectives out there, and we respect all those perspectives, but we really wanted to make sure that we worked on this criteria, and then based on the criteria, how do we resolve that issue? And this is one of those things that we came up with to resolve it.
What's the timeline on this? When do we vote on it?
Yep, if we decided, the board has to look at it again tonight. They got their first sticker shock last Monday, and so they were able to ask great questions about all the different projects. They'll review it again tonight. If the board wants to, I think they're probably going to wait till June, but they could actually approve it in May to go to the voters on November 8th of 2017. They'll probably wait until the June meeting to approve it or disapprove it. And if the board does approve this, then the voters would vote on this at the November 8th general election next fall.
This coming fall?
This coming fall, yep, 2017. Yep, that is correct.
Interesting.
Yeah. So there's been a lot of thought in this whole entire process, and I'd like to come back to you again, Gordy, maybe in June and July and give you an update of the progress, because every time we are really refining this, it's getting more and more, we're getting the numbers really close, we're getting the project and the designs really close, and I can get that and make sure that you have all the information and the exact knowledge.
Now, memory is leaving me as I get older, but the last major building project in the mid-90s was 36 million. That number is in my head.
Yeah, I think that's pretty close.
Sounds
actually.
about right.
Yeah, it does sound about right. Yep, and that was a new elementary school. And
so this is 20 years later. It probably should not surprise us. It more than doubles.
It is, yep.
Although you built a new elementary and the addition on the high school in the mid-90s. This is similar in that you're going to build a new learning center,
yep,
and the event center,
yep,
plus remodel all the elementaries.
And a new ALC on top of that. So it's a pretty significant amount, and I can't say enough good things about the architects and the consultants that we've been working with. We've been working with Wold. They've done a great job bringing this committee together, and the committee has done an outstanding job. And so it really has come together nicely, and it was done the right way. It was transparent, it was open, it's involved. It's been a year process. We've involved probably over 50 people in this whole piece. We're now getting it out to the public, so the public hasn't had all the information, but we're trying to get it out there as much as we possibly can so people can ask the right questions.
This is on your website.
This is on our website. Yep.
You've got schematics or
everything's on there.
Drawings, conceptual drawings.
Yeah, very similar to the schematics that the newspaper had that they published last week, and the Faribault Daily News has done a great job of making sure that they get the right information out. So I think we're doing a pretty good job, and we're right on track on getting all that information out to the voters so they can make their choice. So we'll see.
November 8th.
November 8th. The first big meeting is the board meeting on May 22nd, or I don't have it. I think it's end of June, the June's regular school board meeting.
So there's no meeting tonight?
There's a meeting for a discussion with, again, the board's going to ask some questions of us about this project.
It's a work session.
That's it. Only on this topic. You have to follow up with what we gave them last week. But the actual action of whether or not we pursue it would be May 22nd or the June board meeting. And that would determine whether or not we go to the voters with this project.
Is that required by law? It has to be that much in advance?
It does. And we don't want to get into July because we have to have so many days ahead of time before the voting piece. So I've talked to the board, and the fourth Monday in June is really our deadline for making that decision.
So this is a pass or fail one option, or are you going to give multiple options, or is that to be determined?
It's to be determined. There is an operating levy that's attached to this because obviously you have to, if you're going to build a new facility, you need custodial. If we move the kindergarten group to a early childhood center, we need additional transportation. So there is some operating levy as a part of this whole piece. That's part of that $30 or less. That's all incorporated with it. So we would probably have two questions. One would be to approve the operating levy to make sure that we can support these new areas. And then the second question, or vice versa, would be the bond issue, whether or not we support all these renovations for the schools.
Did you look at adding 4 classrooms at the elementaries? Because the only drawback I see in the new building is the thing you just mentioned, the busing of those really little people.
It is. There's some more staffing too that's in that part of that. I think we would have to have added whether we had the 4 classrooms or not there. But the biggest piece is the busing. You're right. And so we're trying to figure that out and minimize that piece. The thing that the committee looked at was whether or not they wanted to add 4 new classrooms to a 1955 building. And that really weighed on them. And then they also said, well, why don't we create a new structure that would connect early childhood, preschool, and kindergarten together. We think that even though there's a lot of good education sense keeping the K with the 5, we understand that piece. We think there's a strong argument that says connect preschool with kindergarten so that they're ready to go for kindergarten too. So educationally, it made a lot more sense having it as a early childhood kindergarten center rather than just attaching 4 classrooms onto a 1955 building. So that was a thought process for it, and it was pretty much unanimous in that committee, including the 2 board members. So hopefully we'll move forward with it.
You mean to go with the E?
The E through K. Yep. That might be the name of our building, EK. You just may have thought of a name for us.
The EK.
EK. There we go. No, it's been a very good process, and I can't say enough good things about the committee and the hard work. They worked hard. They did 8 meetings at 2.5 hours a night, and really got a lot of information from not only the school but the architects and the engineers.
And if I heard you right, the community field house, or the event center,
yep,
is going to be in your perfect world, the high school.
Yes.
Where would you put it at the high school?
Probably on that east side, so it'd be over the tennis courts, and we've talked to the tennis coaches about this too. We think that having the tennis courts at, well, there's 2 locations. When we look at North Alexander Park, we think that would be a great spot for tennis courts. We already have tennis courts on the south end of town. If we put tennis courts on the north end of town, maybe we'd get more kids playing tennis and participating.
Maybe you could just use the indoor courts and never have a rain out.
We could do that too. You have 5 courts. You can certainly do a varsity game and match there too. There are a lot of options whenever you build a field house or a event center or whatever we want to name it. But it does.
No wind to deal with when you're doing your lobs. I can see some.
Good. A lot of good action.
Thanks, Todd, for stopping by, and we'll have to book a date here before you leave. And
yep, thanks, Gordy. Appreciate you letting me get the message out to our radio listeners, and really appreciate it.
We'll get some stuff up on the website too.
Sounds good.
KDHLradio.com as we get copies of those pictures. Okay, that concludes today's edition of AM Minnesota.